Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a servant guide for Santa Quetzalcoatl. She's a 4-star ruler and quite possibly the rarest welfare servant in the game because, as of this recording, her event only ran once. The one that's going on right now. It should be pretty obvious that a free ruler is worth quite a bit, but let's find out what she does outside of that. Quetz has a slightly weird arrangement when it comes to the crit section of her kit. Her Samba skill is a 3-turn party attack buff with passive star income, like an extra 20-30. That's pretty straightforward, but then you have Gift of the Goddess, which is a targeted star absorption buff that also increases star generation. In solo attacker builds, you'd be putting that on Quetz, and, well, she's a buster attacker. Yeah, she's got 2 quick cards, but they're more of a backup than your first option on a given turn. For added consistency, you've got Christmas Tactics. This gives her a 3-turn buster buff with 1 turn of buster star absorption. What jury-rigs this all into place is her Noble Phantasm, Yucatan Regalo de Navidad. Hope I didn't butcher that. It's an AoE buster attack that preemptively increases her star generation, while also giving a party-wide crit buff tied to overcharge. Needing to use a buster NP for a crit buff is pretty rough, but you can get the first one out without too much trouble. CEs and supports, you know. If you can get a Brave Chain at the same time, you should have some stars to play around with. To make things easier, I'd recommend running crit and passive star income supports. On the low rarity end, you've got Hans, and on the high end, Merlin, with the latter giving burst damage and extra survivability. This sort of team is useful for harder fights where you need to sit on a single enemy for a while. Rulers have natural bulk against all but one of the 7 standard classes, meaning she can brawl turn to turn without needing a lot of defensive babysitting. That said, NP defense is an issue in extended fights, and you may benefit from a more defensive support like Jean or Mash in those situations. Running a ruler in your 3-turn setup is pretty dicey. We talked about the defensive breadth of the ruler class, but this comes at a steep offensive cost. Rulers only do extra damage against 2 things: Berserkers who get smashed by everyone except Mash, and Moon Cancers who are extremely rare enemies and ones you almost never see in standard farming. That said, Quetz has a few things that let her occupy this role. For one, her suite of personal buffs lets her boost up for a decent amount. Secondly, her welfare status means that you can get her at NP 5 and on the cheap. Still, final wave killing might be asking a little too much. Sticking her in the 2nd slot, you can prepare your final wave killer with a mix of stars and attack and crit buffs. If your damage is borderline, the crits become relevant, and a number of servants are well equipped to exploit this. For one example, consider Lancer Alter. She's an AoE buster crit Lancer with a modest star dump of her own. If Runhominiad doesn't do the trick, the old Stompy Stab will. For craft essences, I'd recommend something with starting charge and NP damage. Specifically, I'm thinking of Holy Knight's Supper, which comes with crit damage, and Aerial Drive with extra buster. On your supports, star generation is very nice. Try 20-30 for consistent income, or a star dump like Holy Maiden's Teachings. For your Mystic Code, Anniversary Blonde stands out as a strong option since it provides extra buster effectiveness while covering for weak turns with a star dump and guts. If you're interested in min-maxing Quetz, try out the Holy Knight's Aurora Command Code. If you stick it on one of her buster cards, you can get some free stars every time you use it. By building incremental advantages like these, you can build up crit turns more consistently. Finally, I'll note that as a ruler, Quetz has very lenient skill requirements, and you can reach 777 only using class gems. You get plenty from the Christmas Lotto, so you get a lot of bang for a little buck. Overall, Santa Quetzalcoatl is a useful, if slightly niche servant. Developed accounts will likely use specialized classes and farming roles, but having this extra bit of flexibility in your toolkit is worth a lot. And you pay very little to get it. So if you were thinking of skipping out on this Christmas event, get your ass in a maximum overdrive because she's worth it. But you only get one shot. Thanks for watching. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and come watch me on Twitch where I stream every weekend, Friday through Sunday, 3 PM Pacific time. See you there.